From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Go forth and make disciples.
If you've got a tip for Melissa, the big deal that everyone thinks is no big deal. A tiny fact that can turn big at any moment. How to describe what oysters on the half shell look like without getting arrested. Anything. Tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. Or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host. Where true crime goes, she will follow. At a safe distance behind all the police cars, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. I think, I would not be at a safe distance. I'd be up to where they would arrest me.
No, I think you're actually a responsible citizen.
Hi, have we met? My name's Melissa.
You probably would be like right where the blood,
hey, what's going on?
Where the blood spatter guy is like,
Hey, look, do you need gloves? I have them in the back of my car.
Sticking a notebook right in front of his
a
notebook pad right in front of his face, saying, "What's your name? What's your name? What are you doing? What's going on?"
Yeah, I'm that person.
Yeah,
I'm more than following at a safe distance, but it's very sweet that you think I would be respectful, because we know I'm actually just stomping right in the middle of shit all the time, causing trouble. I guess I'm a shit stirrer. I don't want to be, but I can't help myself. There's so much shit to be stirred. So before we get to the housekeeping, which you have a lot of, I needed to address this because it's important, and I think people need to know who you are. So my husband has extraordinarily vivid dreams, and
you're not going to do
this. Yeah, we are.
Come on now.
And he a couple weeks ago woke up and he was like giggling, and I'll let you tell the details, but don't make it long because it's awful and stupid. So he's like, there was this guy in my dream and his name was Hafty Offstets. Okay, so you go ahead from here and tell him what Hafty did.
You're shortening the story a lot, so I'll try to shorten.
Yeah, because you know why? Because your goddamn dreams are ridiculous.
It's just a weird
Don't
dream.
make it a long extended dance mix version of your goddamn dream.
You brought it up.
I did, but I didn't
dug the hole, baby.
You know what I did? I turned the mic over to you, which is my first mistake.
You know shit.
Yes.
So I had a weird dream. I was in my our tax accountant's office. Melissa wasn't there though, and I was waiting for our tax accountant Keith, who's a very cool guy, and he never showed up. But instead, this guy looked like he was about from like maybe 1973 or so, mid 50s. Salt and pepper hair, very short hair, average build, wearing a very basic suit. Yes,
not going to be in a lineup.
Anyway. He said, I'll fill in for Keith, but he never did anything. And I was like getting very, very, and at one point I just said, well, is Keith ever going to get here? And then all of a sudden this other guy was next to him and they both looked at each other like, oh, God, no. And I'm like, okay, what's your name? And he just said, it's Hafty Offstets. And I go, okay, spell that. He kept trying to spell. I kept getting it wrong. Hafty. He kept spelling it. Hafty Offstets. And I remembered. I never remember my dreams. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I dictated it into my phone so I wouldn't forget it. And then I went back to sleep. And sure enough, when I woke up in the morning, I didn't remember the name. But I did tell Melissa, hey, I dictated this guy's name in my dream. And there it was. And so what I did was to memorialize it because, nobody, okay. I had a desk nameplate made.
Yes, he did.
In the name of Hafty Offstets.
And it says Hafty Offstets, briefcase owner.
Because that's what he had. He had a briefcase. He never opened it, though.
That's my husband. That's my husband in his dreams, and I am just horrified.
Can you dig it?
No, I can't dig it. What I can dig is it is kind of an interesting thing that our tax guy is a spectacular human. Keith Clark is so interesting. He was a band member for the Circle Jerks and I started to say a seminal punk band because I'm a 12-year-old boy. Sorry.
Okay.
A punk band in the 80s that seminal, spelled differently. But he found out he was good with numbers and he did the band's books while they were on the road. And after he, decided to leave the glamorous world of punk music, he opened his own business as a CPA and tax accountant, and his name is the name of the company is H&R Clark.
Oh yeah, it's N-R.
The letter N,
Yeah.
H&R Clark. And I found that in a magazine when I was house sitting for a friend in the San Fernando Valley and thought, I don't care who or what this man is, I'm going to him for our taxes. And he specialized in people who worked in the entertainment industry. And at the time, Mark and I both worked in the entertainment industry. So we went to him, and we have for many, many years, and he is a stellar human being. And last year, ironically, Mark was with his father, who was leaving this world, and I was sitting across from Keith, and Mark texted me and said he's gone, about Gary Humphreys. And Keith was so compassionate and amazing, and raced around to get tissues and played a little song for me. He has these amazing, weird non-instrument instruments in his office, and yeah, so I'm glad that our accountant is not Hafty Offstets.
No, he's a wonderful man. He's a good guy.
Keith is a stellar human being. So there's Mark Humphrey's dreams, which are just horrifying. Even if they aren't nightmares, they are to me. His dreams are, he's a very vivid dreamer. He talks a lot in his sleep. He punches me. He kicks. He moves. It's always a thrill ride getting to sleep next to Mark.
I kind of dance when I sleep.
That's one word for it. So let's get to the housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Yes, a little bit of housekeeping. We would like to thank Tipster Brett, who's a new subscriber on the YouTube channel. I don't understand you kids and your YouTubes, but it's really nice to have a dude who's a subscriber, because it doesn't happen often. It's mostly, true crime is very populated by girls, and I get it. I think we're mostly afraid that it's going to happen to us. But it's really nice to have Tipster Brett join the party. We're happy that he's here. And send some good vibes to Tipster Shelby, who had some dental surgery, and I think it was pretty big, and she just needs, a little extra hug. So send a virtual hug to Tipster Shelby if you don't mind. And I do have to say a special thank you to LAPD Homicide Cold Case Division, because they may not tell you yes if you put in a public records request, but they are swift. Instead of making you wait for weeks or months, as I have bitched and complained about in this podcast and previous episodes, a wonderful tipster said, would you please check on this cold case that I am familiar with? And I did, and within 24 hours, I had gotten a response that said it's still, an open case, and, if any other, information becomes available we can share, we'll let you know. But they were, it was a very mechanical answer, but it was great.
Yeah, but they responded
They
immediately.
did so fast. It was amazing.
It's the word. I think it's sometimes even worse than not getting anything at all. I mean, but when they tell you no, it's worse than being told no, to just not hear anything.
To not
at all.
hear anything. That's the thing. You wait, and then you're told no. That's all your time is wasted. But, if you're told, I'll say they're very swift when they tell you to take a step back and fuck your own face. They're very swift.
You're back to that.
Yeah, that's going to be my call line now every time I try and get information from a law enforcement agency. But the LAPD, cold case, they were on it. So I am grateful that even though I will not be getting any of the case file in this upcoming case, we'll probably be covering that in February. They were great about it, and not every agency is great. So that was something right there. So along with the housekeeping, we have our email address, jttipsters@gmail.com, our wonderful phone number, 832-847-7837. You can always call us with tips or show ideas. We are very grateful for that. We would be also really grateful if you would take some time to give us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe. I always forget to say subscribe. But if you could do that, that would be a big gift to us. The more people who find your show, the more reviews you get. It's sort of a circle that feeds itself. You also get really strange reviews, like, 3-star reviews for, I don't even know. But anyway, if you can take some
Gotta
time.
let go of the 3-star reviews. I swear to God.
I can't.
I swear to God.
Yeah, Mark's gonna
Alice to the moon. To the moon, Alice.
I know. I shouldn't. Here's the thing. It shouldn't be a big deal, but it is. You enjoy hearing what listeners think. Hopefully it's mostly positive, but what it does is more people can find you. The more reviews and ratings there are, the more people can find you, and that's what we're going for. So, that's why if you can take the time to do that, we'd be very grateful. We also have a Patreon page subscription. I don't even know the word. What's the word?
I think it's called a Patreon page.
Yeah.
I believe.
And we have a beautiful group of patrons, and we would like you to know that if you are not a patron, consider being one for as little as, I think it's $2 a month.
Little as $2, man.
Yeah.
$2 a month.
You can get early access, and you get the podcast a day sooner than its regular release date. And those of you who are patrons know that we send you swag too. And it's not like shit swag. It's not like, a VW microbus sticker. It's actually good shit. Our swag is some good shit. Let me just say that.
If you get up to the $5 or $10 level, you're getting some really good shit.
Oh yeah. Producer Mark and I show up, and then he sleeps in your bed, and then you get to hear the shit he says in his sleep.
And you helped me write a song about half the offsets.
No, we don't. No, that doesn't happen.
Yes,
no. That's not going to happen ever. We're not writing a song. You're not writing a song. If you do, I'd prefer that you keep it to yourself. That's, every relationship needs a little mystery, and I feel like that's one you should keep.
You don't think Halfty's mysterious?
I think that there is so much going on in your brain that at first I thought it was an anagram, and I tried to sit down and figure out what it spelled, but then I decided your brain is too interesting of a terrain and a landscape for me to give a shit, so I can't figure out what Halfty.
Maybe we should have a Halfty Offstets anagram contest.
No,
it's by the way, it's Offstets with 3 T's.
I'm literally going to cut your mic off, and I don't even have that ability if you don't stop it. But speaking of contests, we are considering in February, because yours truly got a Cricut vinyl cutter, and I'm having just so much fun. I'm basically putting, vinyl stickers on everything we own, including all of our clothing, or at least mine.
She put some on my teeth. It's really hard to get off.
Yeah, but they're good stickers. They're pretty. They're very pretty.
She's really doing a good job too.
I'm having a lot of fun. So I'm considering making personalized swag for those who may want it, and we may have again a contest in February where if you submit a show idea, we'll put your name in a hat and we'll do a drawing, and whoever's show idea we pull out, we will make something really personalized for you. Some just the Tip-Sters swag with your name on it and maybe the color you want. I mean, the ideas are endless. I'm just having so much fun with my vinyl cutter, like a crazy crafty person who doesn't know how to do crafts. But
you're doing really well.
Yeah, I'm not crafty.
I'm
not crafty, but this is fun shit. I'm having a really good time. So I like lots of different types of podcasts. My favorite are absolutely true crime or mystery or missing persons podcasts. However, a interesting fellow named Sean Burns, who I, bumped into in a Facebook podcasting group, has the most interesting ideas. He's so creative, and he loves the creative arts. And his podcast is so fascinating, and it has a rotating group of hosts, which you will understand why when you hear the promo. It's almost necessary, and it's a beautiful thing. I can't imagine how much time and effort he puts into getting together the right people for the right show, but it's such a great idea. It's amazing, and it is called Now You've Seen It. Could you play that promo, Producer Mark?
Everyone, no matter how big a geek you are, has movies that they haven't seen that have other geeks saying, "How have you never seen this movie?" Well, we're here to help. At the Now You've Seen It podcast, we help you fill those gaps in your geek cred one movie at a time. Each episode, a guest who is watching the movie for the first time joins our rotating cast of hosts and panelists to discuss the movie and compare seeing it through fresh eyes versus seeing it with eyes filtered through the lens of nostalgia. You can find Now You've Seen It on Facebook at facebook.com/Now You've Seen It, no apostrophe, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So Sean is such an interesting fellow, and he is really very present on social media. And, you know, you can join his Facebook page, but give his podcast a listen, because it's such a, if you are a movie fan at all, or even if you want to just learn about some movies that you have always been curious about but haven't seen, it's just such a fascinating conceit that, you know, he has this podcast. I just love it. There are definitely lots of podcasts that cover movies, but what a fascinating mashup to have people who love it and people who had never seen it but now see it. It's the fresh eyes thing that I think is so fascinating. So we love Sean, so give his podcast a listen. So this is an episode I never wanted to go back over, and I can't believe that we are coming up just a few days from the 3rd anniversary of William John Cierzan going missing from where I live, Santa Clarita, California. And if you've listened to any of the past episodes, if you're binging or if you're new to us, Will was definitely an impetus for me to start this podcast. I did not want to focus on missing people at all. I wanted to only cover closed cases because missing and unsolved cases give me hives, and I want to solve them all, and I talk about them and cry. And I mean, that's nothing new. I talk about closed cases and cry too. I cry because it's Tuesday, or I cry because I'm happy, or I cry because I'm sad, or I cry because I see a dog, or, you know, I'm just warning you that I have a box of tissues right beside me. I usually don't say that because I beg producer Mark to cut out my crying, and he has, for the most part, largely ignored me and said that it's authentic and makes me who I am.
And beautiful.
Oh, don't say that, because then I'll cry. I don't think it's particularly beautiful. I think it's messy, but I can't stop it. And it's, I try, believe me, I try. So I'm going to try really hard. I was hoping maybe to thwart the tears if I had a box of tissues. I thought, you know what? You never have tissues. You end up wiping your eyes on your sleeves like a toddler. But I'm hoping, okay, you have tissues here, you're not going to use them. So that was my thinking. I was trying to, you know, reverse psychology myself, but I'm not sure if one can do that to oneself, but that's what I'm doing. So here we are, almost 3 years later, and Will Cierzan is still missing. I would imagine most of us can say that we're not looking for a missing person. We're looking to recover a body. His soul is probably somewhere else, and we're looking to recover his body and not bring closure to his wife, his sisters, his brothers, hate to include too, his friends and family who thought the absolute world of a sweet man who did nothing to deserve this. There's no such thing as closure. We know that by now. But maybe bring some peace to them, as well as some hopefully big and swift justice to the person who knows where Will is and what happened to him, person or persons. And if you're unfamiliar with the case, you'll understand what that means, hopefully, by the time we're done. So Will Cierzan, on a rainy, cold Thursday, January 26th of 2017, had the day off from his job. He worked not exactly part-time, but not full-time, 35 hours a week, at the gift shop at the Six Flags Magic Mountain here in our community. And he collected Coke memorabilia. He was a golf fanatic and just a sweet man living his life. And he had the day off. And he was deliriously happy to be at home watching like a State Farm sponsored golf tournament because he was not a fan of Tiger Woods and Tiger was doing badly. And he was thrilled to be able to hopefully see Tiger do even worse. And his wife, Linda, his wife of 28 years, was at work, and it was a regular day. It's a regular day. And I won't forget that day because maybe 24 hours later, there was a report that someone from the area was missing. And a lot of times with these sort of cases, the person comes home, the person needed a timeout, the person is having a bad day, a mental health day. Maybe there's a miscommunication and the person is away from their phone. You know, sometimes in a short period of time, these cases work out and the person comes home. And you can always hope for that. But again, it's been 3 years and Will did not come home. And Will has not come home. And I don't believe Will can come home of his own, on his own steam. I think we need to find Will. So Thursday, January 26th, 2017 starts like any other day. But it ends very differently for Linda Cierzan. She speaks to her husband a couple of times during the day. And the last phone call was about 4:30. And she called home and Will said he had been watching golf and was in a good mood, good spirits, had made chicken for dinner. And she called to let him know she would be working an hour of overtime. So instead of being home at 6, she would be home at 7 p.m. And he said, "Oh, that's great. I will just make the potatoes a little later." He had more time because his job was not a full-time job and he was enjoying cooking and doing things around the house. So at 6 o'clock, before she leaves, Linda calls Will again. And this time there's no answer. Now from 4:30 to 6, things have changed. And we actually even have a much shorter timeline. But just hold on to that. How many times during the day do you go an hour and a half without speaking to your significant other? Probably quite a few days, unless you both work from home or, you know, you're in constant communication. You have to get work done, right? So at 4:30, everything's right with the world. And at 6, Linda is a little disturbed that she can't get a hold of Will, but okay, you know, maybe he's talking to the neighbors. Friendly guy. They'd lived in this house for decades. It's just the two of them and their dog. They don't have kids. They have extended family, but they don't have kids of their own. Will is always the guy who can fix anything, who will help you out. You need help with your water heater? Here comes Will, up and down the street. He's loved by everyone. Just a good guy. Just a good guy living his life. So Linda gets home at 7. It's now dark. Will's truck is in front of the house. The front door is unlocked. It's dark. There's no lights on. But immediately Linda sees that Will's jacket, his phone, and his keys are on the kitchen counter. Everything that he probably would have taken with him, even if he were just going down the street. So she knows she can't call him because his phone's right there. So she picks up the phone and looks at the last number and dials it because it's their nephew, Daniel. Daniel answers the phone. He's getting a call from his Uncle Will's phone. And Linda says, "Daniel, it's Aunt Linda. Have you seen Uncle Will?" And Daniel says, No, I haven't. Did you see him today? Well, yeah, I was there till about 1:30. I guess I left about 1:30. Oh, okay. Well, if he calls you or you see him or you hear from him, will you please tell him I'm looking for him? Yeah, sure. At that point, Linda goes out of the house and goes as far as she can down the street. Anyone that has their garage door open, she asks if they'd seen Will. The usual suspects, the neighbors that he was friends with, that he would talk to, she knocks on their doors. Have you seen Will? Was he here today? Nobody's seen Will. It's now 9:30, and she calls the sheriff's department. And a female detective shows up and shines a flashlight around the house, even looks up in the attic and says, "Yeah, you're right, he's not here." She then gets called out on another call and has to leave and says to Linda, "I'll make sure he's put in the system. He's in the system now. That's all we can do."
My blood is already starting to boil, even at this early stage.
I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this.
Didn't Linda come home and the chicken was out of the oven?
The chicken was on top of the stove. The potatoes had not been cooked. The stove was turned off. The dog was in the house, along with all of Will's belongings. The next morning, Linda's sister comes to the house. Linda hasn't slept because Will's not home. By the light of day, Linda's sister says, "What's that?" This is a small one-story house that we're talking about, and one of the bedrooms was Will's man cave. And when I say man cave, more like a man room, very small man room. It had a recliner. It had a old school CRT television on a desk or a table. It had a side table. It was, a small bedroom that was his man cave where he would watch, golf or whatever he was interested in his recliner. Linda's sister sees small red dots behind the recliner and a elongated blood smear on the face of the television. And she says to Linda, "What's this?" And we know now that's blood spatter. Linda sees, again, in the light of day, some evidence of someone trying to clean up in the guest bathroom. And she goes to the sheriff's substation and pounds on the counter on Friday morning. "Someone needs to come to my house now." And I know I've said it before, but Linda is tiny. She's mighty and she's strong, and a strength that I hope none of us ever have to call on. I guess my reverse psychology didn't work. Linda has a strength that I hope none of us ever have to summon in ourselves, because she is living my nightmare. And we all have cases that are important to us, but this one is especially important because what she and Will's family have gone through is unimaginable to me. Unimaginable. Will Cierzan is a 58-year-old sweet man living his life. He's not a 17-year-old beautiful blonde girl. He's not a baby. He's not a child. He's a man living his life. And 58-year-old men who don't cause trouble, who don't live a compromised life, don't disappear for no reason. So tiny little Linda Cierzan and her big voice are heard. And this time, someone comes to look at the house, and within a very short period of time, homicide evidence collectors are there, and they spend 6 hours. The entire yard is roped off. They look everywhere. They take all of the samples they can. And that evening, they interview Daniel Cierzan and his father, Chuck Cierzan.
Daniel is the nephew, and Chuck is what? Is that Will's brother?
Will's brother and Daniel's father. He is younger than Will, and they have not always seen eye to eye. But Will and Linda have taken an interest in Daniel. They're religious. They belong to a very large Catholic church. They have taken Daniel to church with them to get him to join the church, to convert. He has had some issues, being arrested twice before, once for felony possession of a controlled substance in 2014, and literally 2 months later, another arrest for being under the influence of a controlled substance. So if he is arrested a third time, that's a third strike. He is a kid who has made himself disenfranchised. He was a follower of the Insane Clown Posse, although I can't even imagine that the other juggalos would like him to be in their group. Several of his, I don't want to call them friends, but classmates were interviewed, including by me, and I'm not a detective, but one of the people who was searching the hardest for Will. She and I looked for him a lot together, sometimes just the two of us, and we found some young men who'd gone to school with him. They would never call themselves friends of his. And basically, when you say his name, you get the same response. Yeah, that kid's weird. Yeah, that kid's weird. So Will and Linda, not having children of their own, want to try and help their nephew have a better life. Maybe put him on a better path, get him off of the meth, not let him sell the meth, and get a job. And he is a frequent guest at the home. I think Will probably had a closer bond with Daniel than Linda. I think Linda thought he was weird, but he's also her husband's nephew. He's her nephew. And I think Daniel was there a lot, maybe when Linda was not home, when she was at work and Will had a day off. So they the police interview Daniel and Chuck on Friday night for about 3 hours, separately. Daniel says he left at 1:30 that afternoon, didn't see his Uncle Will after that. Said he'd gotten there around noon. There's video of them going to a 7-Eleven and getting a case of beer to drink while watching golf. They take that back home. And he said he left about 1:30. Chuck got home at 4 p.m. on Friday and said that Daniel was there and he would swear to it on a stack of Bibles. Now, in the meantime, Chuck may have figured out that Daniel's in some shit. And he calls another brother of the Cierzan family. There were 6 kids. And he asks the older brother if he can have some money because Danny's in trouble again. Now, apparently this brother had fronted some money in the past, a few years earlier when Daniel had the drug arrests. But he says he needs some money now as a retainer because Danny's in trouble. Chuck fails to mention to their brother that Danny's potentially in trouble because their brother Will has been missing for 24 hours now. He leaves that part out. The brother calls the attorney's office and leaves a $15,000 retainer on his credit card. Now they don't speak to the police anymore, both of them. They're both represented by the same law firm. Probably different attorneys, but I don't know that for sure.
So they use this $15,000 that was borrowed from another one of Will's brothers to retain an attorney, and then they clam up.
Yes, sir.
Both of them.
Yes, sir. They are no longer able to be questioned without their attorney present, who would advise them not to answer anything. on Saturday. Will has been missing now for a day and a half. And the neighbor across the street says, we have a video camera, a security camera on our garage. It shoots across the street to your house. Do you want to look at the footage? Linda says, why, yes. Yes, I do. The footage shows that Daniel and Will left at noon to pick up beer at 7-Eleven. Again, there's video footage from the 7-Eleven of Will purchasing the alcohol. They come back home. Will's truck has never moved from in front of their house. Daniel's SUV has never moved from in front of their house. It was there all afternoon. It was there when Linda called at 4:30 and said, I'm going to be an hour late. And it didn't move until 5:06 p.m. when Daniel came out dressed in a different color shirt than when he went in. He backs his Toyota 4Runner, his unique Toyota 4Runner, into the driveway of Will and Linda Cierzan's house. The back hatch opens. It blocks, ostensibly, anything that we would really need to see. And 6 minutes later at 5:12, Daniel pulls out of the driveway in his unique SUV that, by the way, Will's sister and Daniel's aunt, Andrea, co-signed for because it had these unique a flow spoiler in the front and unique rims. She recognizes it as being Daniel's and only Daniel's. There is a white male person in the front seat and nothing else can be seen. The Sheriff's Department Homicide Unit said that they had been enhancing the video, but we have yet to see how enhanced it was or if it really could prove it was Daniel. But we know it's Daniel. And he pulls out of the driveway 6 minutes later, probably with Will in the back, under his own steam, or probably not, and turns in the opposite direction of how you would go to get to his house. Now, sometime between 5:12 and 7 p.m., when Linda calls him from Will's phone, and he answers, which I would imagine would be a scary fucking event if you murdered your uncle.
Yeah.
You get a phone call from his phone, and it's your aunt saying, have you seen Uncle Will? Sometime between 5:12 and 7, we don't know where Will is, where he went, where he was taken, and by whom. But we know that by 9 p.m., his brother Chuck, Daniel's father, his cell phone goes radio silent from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. the following day, Friday. From 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., Chuck's phone cannot be pinged.
So he turned it off.
Yes. Now, when he's questioned, Chuck Cierzan says, I spent the evening with my ex-wife at her house in Saugus, which has really bad cell reception. Now, one of the things that breaks my heart in half is that it takes a month. It takes a month before Chuck's ex-wife is questioned, and she says, well, Chuck wasn't here that night.
It took him a month to get that information?
A month to question her.
Okay, all right.
1 month. Because you don't work hard on a missing 58-year-old white man. You think he walked away Literally, one of the officers said to Linda, maybe he's in Costa Rica.
You gotta be kidding
I'm
me.
not kidding you.
Why did they... Costa Rica, how did he come up with that?
He pulled it out of his ass saying that Will walked away from his life. Now, here's the thing. It happens. It happens. People do it. They usually have a reason. They're unhappy in their marriage. They have financial difficulties. They have a drug or alcohol addiction. They have mental illness. None of those things apply here. Will and Linda were an island of two. They were each other's love, the loves of their life. This is the part that's going to kill me. Linda still probably sleeps on the couch because she doesn't want to sleep in their bed until her Will comes home. So Chuck's alibi is bullshit. And a man with a bullshit alibi alibied his son, which is bullshit. So we don't know if Chuck helped Daniel dispose of his own brother, or if he knows what happened and was not involved but is covering for his son. We don't have answers to that. But I can tell you that the older Cierzan brother, when he found out that the money was for an attorney to cover both Chuck and Dan because Will was missing, he tried to get the money back. He called the law firm and said, I would like to cancel the credit card that I put down for $15,000. And they said, oh, yeah, no, sorry, that's already gone through. You can't have it back.
Jeez.
Can you imagine knowing that you have funded your brother and nephew, who are the only persons of interest in your brother's disappearance?
Yeah, I'm sure that, yeah. And now you got to pay it off.
Well, it wouldn't matter if it's $5 or $15,000.
Yeah,
it
right.
hurts just as much.
Yep.
Knowing that you funded your brother and nephew's, let's just call it murder of your own brother. That's got to hurt. So Daniel's SUV is impounded. And surprise, surprise, there's a red substance in the back. And it turns out to be blood. And it turns out to be Will Cierzan's blood. Now, the family was warned after the results came back that Daniel would say, Uncle Will touched me and I was defending myself.
That's just reprehensible.
All of it is reprehensible. They were also warned that Daniel could say, Uncle Will had a nosebleed. We went fishing and he cut himself. And I'm not that smart, but I know that you can tell the difference between blood from an open gaping wound, perhaps you've been beaten, and a nosebleed. There's synovial fluid in a nosebleed. It's different. It's just different. And Daniel can say whatever he wants, but we know what happened and we know what he did. We just don't know where he did what he did with Will. So now Chuck and Daniel are no longer speaking, not only to law enforcement, to anyone else in the family. They are just persona non grata. There is a search that is getting together local people, and I have mentioned her, and she has been a guest on the show, Carrie. Carrie kicked into gear like nothing I've ever seen. She's a force of nature, and she will not give up. And she, along with another group of people, a large group of people who had never met Will, came out and searched for him over a lot of uncomfortable terrain. I'm going to tell you that where we live, it can be beautiful. and it can be treacherous. There's a lot of hills and canyons and brushy area and rattlesnakes and mountain lions. And Carrie learned on the job. It's not something she had a lot of experience in. She hadn't taken official search and rescue courses. She had found some missing people. Those people were alive when she found them. Some people, younger people that had gone missing, and she found them because she wouldn't give up, and she is a badass sleuth. But Will's case was different. A grown man is gone. We have a pretty good idea of who and how it happened. We have no idea why. Absolutely no idea why. There are theories that Will was sitting in his recliner and some things had been missing from the house in the months before that. In December of 2016, some gift cards went missing from the kitchen counter. Not a big deal, but they were just gone. There was really no one anyone could imagine taking them other than Daniel. And maybe he wasn't going to catechism class and considering converting or joining their church, but maybe he was stealing gift cards from Uncle Will and Aunt Linda, and maybe he was going to up the ante. Now, there was some expensive items in a drawer in the desk in the man cave that Will was in. But they weren't items that you could fence easily. It wasn't, diamonds. It was barrel bonds. And about $30,000 worth of barrel bonds. Linda, having a gut instinct, had moved them from that desk drawer and hidden them someplace else in the house in December of 2016. A theory is that in January of 2017, January 26th, perhaps Will fell asleep in his recliner after an afternoon of having some beers and maybe woke up and Daniel was rifling through the drawers looking for things to steal. Just a theory. We don't know what happened. We really don't know. But what we do know is that there's Will's blood spattered behind his own recliner. Will's blood attempted to have been washed off out damn spot in their guest bathroom, and Will's blood in the back of his nephew Daniel's SUV. I feel like there are cases that have gone to trial with a lot less evidence than this.
You are absolutely right. That is what drives me crazy about this case.
Yeah.
I don't get this.
Every time producer Mark and I see a show where less evidence than in Will's case shows up and they manage to get a DA to sign off on it, or homicide detectives say, this is what we think happened. We can, we may not have a body, but we can, prove this malfeasance. We look at each other like, how the fuck is Will's case still not? There's one thing I want to be clear on, because I'm not clear on it. The camera across the street recorded all day, right? I mean, they have video pretty much from all afternoon and into the evening, right? Yes.
So they have footage that lasts from the time they left to go get beer at noon all the way until past, 9 o'clock, right?
Right.
So there's nobody else that goes in or out of that house.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's what drives me crazy. Well, who else? What else could have happened?
Well,
Will didn't go out of the house.
That's exactly right.
Nobody else went out of the house except Daniel.
Well, Detective Ralph Hernandez, who was the person who was in charge of this case, but I will tell you that I guess it's still on his desk, but he has been distracted by he and a partner have been handed the Natalie Wood case to reopen. It's a lot. And I really don't want to hammer on the head of a veteran homicide detective, but God damn it. Just God fucking damn it.
Yeah, God damn it is right.
So I reached out to Detective Hernandez, who has been responsive. And is quick to respond and said, "Anniversary's coming up, Detective Hernandez. Any new tips? Anything happening? Anything we want to talk about?" And he said, "It's still an open case, and we urge anyone with any information to call the Sheriff's Homicide Department, and we will leave the phone number at the end of this episode, as we do. There's also a Crime Stoppers phone number. But yeah, we'll give you all the numbers you want, and if you know anything, I pray to God you'll call. Because this is awful." Now, where we live, again, there are canyons and hills and fires and brush. And since Will's disappearance, no less than 3 sets of remains have been found. One set was December of 2018. And I was speaking to someone on the phone the other day and said, I think there are a large number of people with mental health issues that end up walking off and dying, and we may never know why. And people say, well, people don't just lay down and die. Yeah, sometimes I think they do.
They do.
There was a skull found, probably like 20 miles from here in Castaic near Lake Pyramid. A young, beautiful, handsome man who had mental health issues, who liked to walk in nature. His skull was found on the side of the road. No evidence of foul play. He was missing. He'd walked away from his life. He'd left his parents odd-sounding texts saying that he wanted to join the, collective consciousness. And I don't know if he lays there and succumbs to the, weather, or becomes dehydrated, or just goes to sleep. You don't know, but he's no longer with us. In December of 2018, I was saying, a man, and this is what bothers me greatly, if you don't know the information, don't release it. Police released the fact that some remains had been found in the wash in Santa Clarita, near a pretty populated area. And they said the remains looked like it was someone who was between 50 and 60, that they had been there 2 years or more. And it was right around the 2nd year anniversary of Will going missing. And I was rabid. But I do have to say a special shout out to the LA County Coroner's Office, who has been magnificent to me every time I whine and cry and call, every time there's a set of remains found. They're just spectacular. I cannot say enough about the LA County Coroner's Office.
You've had some good luck with coroner's offices.
I guess so. I guess if we think about, Porter County in Indiana, but I guess I don't expect the LA County Coroner's Office to be so spectacular because they're so busy, because it's such a big area. But they're respectful and kind and compassionate and informative. And I mean, I can't, and not just one person. There's one person, I'll say her first initials B. She is, she's wonderful. She's professional and she's curt, but she's always been great to me. But there's a gentleman who works there, and he is a special human being who's listened to me cry on the phone more than once when I find out that the remains that have been found are not Will.
I believe you should call him a mensch.
He is a mensch. He is a total mensch. There are many mensches at the LA County Coroner's Office. There just are. I just have to say it. There just are. So a gentleman went missing in August of 2018 from the San Fernando Valley. How he drives to Santa Clarita, parks his car at the Black Bear Diner, and is found 4 months later in the wash in December of 2018, I'll never know. He was 37. He was having mental health issues. I believe he was married, had a family. I'm not sure about kids, but I know he had a mom and siblings who were looking for him. And he was found in the wash, unfortunately, 4 months later with not much left. And it wasn't a 2 year, he hadn't been there 2 years, and he wasn't 50 to 60. So that's one thing I wish they wouldn't release, because everyone thought it was Will. Everyone thought it was Will. So the most recent set of remains was found after the tick fire. The tick fire was very large out here, and a lot of hillside, and a very odd area. Remains were found, and everyone thought it was Will. And I didn't feel like it was Will. Don't ask me why. Sometimes you just have a gut, right? You just have a gut feeling. Yet I called the LA County Coroner's Office because I couldn't stand not knowing. And I'll be damned if they didn't call me back right away and say, Will has an extensive amount of dental work. This person did not. And that's another thing. Even Tipster Shelby having her recent dental surgery. God forbid, if anything happens to any of us, have some dental work. You know, I'm not saying you have to have shit pulled or, you know, what are those things called? Root canals. But you know what? Go to a dentist and have some x-rays.
Have a filling done that looks unique.
No, yeah. Have a gold star put in the front of one of your front teeth. No. I'm just saying go to a goddamn dentist and have x-rays. Have your teeth cleaned. I don't care. Have something where they have records on you that are available if God forbid anyone ever needs them. Just have some x-rays done. Have something that is, you know, we can find you and identify you, and you don't go for a long time without being known who you are. If for any chance or any reason we need to find you, make it
Amen.
easy. Make it easy. So it was not Will, and it's still not Will, and we don't know where Will is. And we know that Linda has a part of her soul missing. And we know that Andrea and the other siblings in the Cierzan family have a part of their soul missing. And whether you knew Will or not, I'm going to say there's a part of all of our souls missing because he isn't home. And whatever shape he is in, he needs to come home. We need to find him. There was originally a $10,000 reward that has now been doubled by an anonymous donor to $20,000. I have seen some very not nice people try to explain where they said Daniel told them he put Will. Carrie and Jocelyn and some other people and myself have looked for him there, and he's not there. As not built up as Santa Clarita is, it's getting more built up, but there are still not that many places. It's like there's a million places to look for him, and yet there aren't, because there are a lot of outdoor activities in this area. A lot of people are very taken with the sights and the hiking and, you know, the terrain. It just, I'll quote Carrie, who said that she has walked over every inch of Santa Clarita, and if he were in a canyon, she would have found him. And I believe her. She and a group of other people searched tirelessly, and I mean every day. I joined in late in the game, and after 3 or 4 months, and they got together and strategized. They used drones. They used ATVs. They got information that they could about potentially where Daniel's phone could have been pinging. You know, they looked in dumpsters outside of businesses that could have had a connection to Daniel or Chuck. I mean, I can't, they you know, this group of people who did not have formal training became experts in a heartbeat. and worked their asses off and still think about him and think about where he could be and what could happen. But it's as if everyone's hands are tied because we don't know where else to look. We don't know where Will is. And until remains are found, I just have to say it. That's about all I can say, is that until remains are found, we won't know where Will is. But I don't think. I know somebody within the sound of my voice knows something. You may not know where Will is, but you may have seen something you didn't know was important. You may know something that you don't think means something, but it might, or it does. You may know Will Cierzan, and he may have said something to you. Carrie went so far as to track down Daniel's ex-girlfriend and ask her information. I mean, we've looked under, and I say we loosely, they have looked under, and I helped a little, most every rock in Santa Clarita. And maybe he's not under a rock that we can think of, or maybe he's not in a place that we know now. But I know someone knows something. And if you know something, anything, no matter how small you think it is, please call the Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau at 323-890-5500. There's a Crime Stoppers number at 1-800-222-8477. And you can even call us at 832-847-7837. And more cowbell.
And remember, you can also send Melissa an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.